trying little.
Japan.
Yo, what's up, guys? This is Raw Detroit back at you with another video on today, and we're going to get right into it, guys. This is the blame game part 3. We're going to deep dive and go a little bit deeper with the Detroit Lions on today. Now, we know that there's all kind of conversations that people are talking about the Lions. The Lions currently right now are 1-4 with the possibility of sliding to 1-7 if they don't win the next few games. They have a game against the Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, and then the Green Bay Packers. And the Lions could very well lose all 3 of those football games. Now, when you look at the Detroit Lions, you got to understand the history. You got to understand where these guys are at right now. And it looks like we just, the phrase, whoever coined the phrase, rebuilding since 1957, they are currently right. We are still in a rebuild phase, and we're still trying to get our guys to make the leap and jump to the next level. Whenever you're a GM in the off season, your job is to make sure the books are right, and your job also is to make sure that you get the talent on the football team for your offensive coordinator as well as your defensive coordinator and even the special teams. You're looking to be able to fill positions, and we know with the Detroit Lions, you need impact players, especially on defensive side of the ball right now. The Lions do not have that. Right now, Hutch is, he had a few sacks. I think he had 3 sacks so far. And then I think on the defense side of the ball, you have 2 or 3 interceptions. I believe Will Harris has an interception, and also Deshaun Elliott has an interception. So, you got a couple plays that they've made, but they've not really made any noise on the defensive side of the ball. And right now, historically, the defense is ranked, 32nd in the league. So they're pretty much dead last. And then the offense currently was ranked number 1, but I think they slide since the Patriot game, they slide to the 3rd offense in the NFL. Now, there's a lot of finger pointing and blame to go around for everybody, because if you want to look at the Brad Holmes situation, you talk about the free agents, or you talk about, we know that the Lions didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't bring top-notch guys in. But maybe they could have signed a Kazir White that went over to the Eagles. You know what I mean? Maybe they could have picked him up. He was great in coverage, and he was a linebacker that was out there that could probably been picked up. Another linebacker that was out there that they could have picked up is Joe Sherbert, a guy that played for the Cleveland Browns, who was a Pro Bowl linebacker and was a very, very solid linebacker for the Cleveland Browns for years. And then he ended up going to, I believe he went to Pittsburgh, and currently I think Joe Sherbert is on the Denver Broncos. So that was another linebacker that we could have picked up in the offseason, or just picked him up and brought him on his team, because right now we need help at the linebacker position. The linebacker position has been neglected for the last past, I'll say at least 3 to 4 years, man, of being able to not get the linebackers that we need in here. Now, there's been linebackers that we have drafted, the guys that have not panned out, guys like Jelani Tavai, Calvin Noy, Jarrett Davis. There's been other, Antoine Williams. There's been different linebackers that we have drafted, but none of these guys have panned out with the Detroit Lions. And now we're still trying to find the linebackers that's going to work out. Right now, we have a 6th-round rookie linebacker, Malcolm Rodriguez, who is pretty much one of the best players on defense, along with Jeff Okudah, who is kind of playing a little bit better. You're getting a little something out of Jeff Okudah, so you got to admire that and got to love that. You want to see Jeff Okudah stay healthy and play throughout the whole entire season. But when you look at what's really going on in Detroit, there's a lot of finger pointing. And does Brad Holmes deserve to take some of the finger pointing? Yes. Does Dan Campbell deserve to get some of the finger pointing? Yes. Does Aaron Glenn deserve some of the finger pointing? Yes. They deserve. Does the management, the ownership deserve some of this? Yes, of course they do. Of course they do. Historically, we've been bad at drafting. If you don't believe me, go and look at the draft and go see how many players that we have on this roster that's been on this roster for at least 10 years, at least 7 years, at least 5 years. We have a high turnover. We draft guys. They stay with us 2 or 3 years. Sometimes they don't develop, and we have to let them go, and then they go to another team and ultimately start balling out. What is the real problem going on in Detroit? Now, since this team has been under the Ford's leadership, this team has not been a great football team. They've made the playoffs only a few times. The last time they had a playoff win was 1991. The last time they had a 1,000-yard running back was 2013. Reggie Bush did it. So it's some of the things that you see going on in Detroit. It's like, man, why can't we ever win? Why can't we ever be the team that turns it around? When you look at other franchises, they may have a down season for 1 or 2 years, but why are we historically bad every single season? Like every single season, like every year that you wake up, it's like you're in a nightmare because ultimately you think that you're going to be doing good, but at the end of the day, you're not doing anything. And that's pretty much holding the Lions back from being the football team that they need to be. Now, did I go in the season thinking that the Lions were going to go to the playoffs? No, I did not. I'm one of those fans that look at the Lions from a realistic perspective. I don't look at them with the hopium, getting a hopium shot in my arm and drinking Kool-Aid all day out of the refrigerator. I don't do that. I look at them for the talent that I see on the team, the direction where I see them going into, and I just tell the truth about this team. And I'm going to tell the truth about this team no matter what. I think that Brad Holmes does play a part in what has gone on. You don't draft injured players that can't help us, man. We need help. We need Levi. We need Josh Pascal. Those guys right now can't help us. I understand, that they drafted Jameson Williams, and Jameson Williams got hurt, and I know that he's a dog. I already know that Jameson Williams is a dog. But they made a decision to take the receiver over getting a linebacker. Now, some people may say, hey, what are you saying? That was a great pick and things of that nature. That was, we got one of the best wide receivers, and that's cool, and I understand it, and I won't argue with you against that. We do have one of the best receivers, but at the same time, we still got to see what he looks like in the NFL. We know that he can take the top off of defense in college, but can he take the top off of defense in the NFL? And that's still yet to be proven. So we still got to see what is the jury and the verdict going to be on Williams when he does return back. Now, the position that the Lions have been needing the longest, and where this position that they keep running away from, is the linebacker position. Now, I know some fans may say, no, we don't really need a linebacker as long as we got a good front seven, or, whatever it may be. A good defensive line, or we have a solid secondary, we're going to be fine. But now you got all of these injuries going on. And I'm going to say this, guys, for the record, the injuries are hurting us big time. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of guys out. We got a lot of guys in and out of the lineups. DeAndre Swift, he's been in and out of the lineup. We have injuries to Levi. We have injuries to Josh Pascal. I think he was dealing with the sports hernia. Levi deals with the chronic back. Then you also have Tracy Walker being gone for the remainder of the season, end up getting hurt. And then you got like 5 defensive backs getting hurt in the last game. So you got all of this stuff going on. You may have Amani Warrior playing with a hurt back. So you got a lot of situations that's going on in Detroit, and there's a lot of finger pointing that is going on that you can point at. Everybody is to blame for what's going on currently in Detroit. Now, I want to say the ownership plays a role in this too as well, because the ownership, they just cannot win under, I don't know, man. The Lions cannot win under the Ford's ownership. This team has not won, and I would love it if the Lions would sell the team, man, and sell it to somebody that wants to see the Detroit Lions win. I think the Fords probably should just worry about making sure their cars are reliable and on the road, and leave the football to someone else, because under their leadership, this thing has been horrible, man. So I think they should sell it. They should sell the team, even though I know that they're not going to sell the team. But I would love for them to sell it. And then if you think about, Dan Campbell, the decisions that he's been making on the field, whether it be third down situations or maybe fourth down situations, going for all of these fourth downs and not getting any of them. And then the last one that really hurt it is the 4th and 9. Probably leaving some points on the table. Could have punted it. Could have did an array of different things, but nevertheless, he decided to go for it and end up falling short. The one thing I can say about Dan Campbell, he is a very aggressive coach, and he will go for the 4th down. And nothing is wrong with that, especially if you're getting them, you're hitting on these 4th downs. But if you're not hitting on them, you got to kind of punt the ball, and you got to be able to get these field goals, because you don't want to leave any points, on the table that you could have had in the game. So I think some of the coaching decision has not been the greatest, but that's some of the things that he has to work on. I know that it's year 2, but he still has to put the work in to get better as a coach. It's good to hear the speeches and the pep rallies and stuff like that, but eventually it comes down to winning football games on Sunday. That's what it's all about. And then when you think about Aaron Glenn, everybody last year was ragging on Aaron Glenn, pretty much saying how he was going to be a head coach and stuff like that. And he's working his way to be a head coach, but then only to have the regression in his defense this season. So you could point fingers at Aaron Glenn for his defensive preparation on Sundays with this football team. Now, you have to also look at the personnel that he's been given by Brad Holmes. He doesn't have a lot of dogs on defense. There's not a lot of dogs on this squad. So you got to be mindful that, as a fan, that you don't have dogs on this team, really. All you have is a bunch of guys playing football. Nobody is really standing out, and not even Hutch. And they're not even double-teaming Hutch right now. Now, I know Rodrigo has pretty much been solid, and that's pretty good, and that's a bright spot on the defense. But still, you want to be a good defensive unit. You want to have some linebackers that can play and can make some plays. You want to have a secondary that can make some plays, and they don't really have that. So when teams are preparing for the Lions on Sunday, who are they preparing for? Not really nobody. They're just going out there knowing that they need to beat the Lions today, because they're not prepping. They're not saying, where's number 54 at, or where's number 55, or where's number 27 at, or 33, or whoever you are, whatever number you are on defense. They're not looking for those guys, because those guys are nowhere to be found. You need to draft guys on this team in 2023. If you're going all defense, you need to make sure that you're going to grab guys that can impact this football team. We need guys that are healthy and guys that can make an impact. We need impact players. And I've been telling you guys this from day one, that until the Detroit Lions get premium talent on the defensive side of the ball, this team is not going anywhere. You have to have a defense in the NFL. You got to be able to stop somebody. You have to. So to me, the blame game, you can blame it on all of these guys, because they all play a role into where this team is at currently. Brad Holmes shouldn't have never brought back Alex Anzalone. He should have never brought back Tim Boyle. He shouldn't have never brought back David Bly. Even though David Bly is no longer part of this team anymore, he's in Minnesota, should have never brought him back. You were at the Senior Bowl. You had an opportunity to look at linebackers. You didn't look at any of these guys. It was nothing but linebackers there. Didn't take none of these guys. Nothing but quarterbacks there. Couldn't have the opportunity to upgrade the quarterback position. Could have took a quarterback in the 6th or the 7th round. Could have took a Skylar Thompson or a Chase Gables, or just one of these late round quarterbacks to be able to develop. But since the Lions are not good in developing talent, and they're not good historically with drafting, then that's where you find your issues at. So the root of the issues and the problems that have been with the Lions is that we don't draft well, and our guys don't pan out. The guys that we draft don't pan out to be solid football players. You may get 1 or 2, but we need to get more than that. We need to get impactful players if we want to be a football team and we want to be better. You can't just go out there with a bunch of guys. You need guys to stand out. You need guys that consistently make plays week in and week out. Guys that you can count on. There's not too many players on this team that you can count on. You need a running back that's going to be durable. If Swift can't be durable, I need to draft another running back. There is no more secrets to this thing. If you see it right before your eyes and this guy is steady getting hurt every single season, then you know ultimately you got to go and get another running back. Unless you're going to allow Craig Reynolds to take over the #1 spot, which I think he probably should take over the #1 spot, but I don't think the Lions will give it to him. Even though this kid works his butt off, I still don't think that Jamal Williams is the #1 running back. Now, he's doing good. He's been solid, Jamal Williams, but I don't look at him as the #1 running back. You need that explosion. You need that power. You need that guy that's explosive. You need that guy that's agile. You need that guy that can catch, can block, can do it all, can run that football. So if you want to blame anybody, Detroit Lions fans, just blame it on our franchise, period. Blame it on everybody, because everybody plays a role into what's going on truly with the Detroit Lions. Everybody has their hand in the cookie jar. So they all play a vital role for this team to be where it's at. If you lose the next 3 games, you'll be 1-7. Who will they blame then? Would it be Brad Holmes? Would it be the ownership? Is it going to be Dan Campbell? Who are you going to blame? And I look at it like this, if you're going to blame anybody, you blame the whole franchise and everything that they got going on right now. Because currently the Detroit Lions don't look good. And we could possibly not win another game this season. And that is the reality that you got to deal with, Detroit Lions fans, is that you may not win another game. You may have a top 5 selection in the draft again for the last 5 seasons. Some people say get the quarterback. Get your franchise quarterback. Some people may say go after the defensive end and Will Anderson. Go get Bryce Young. Go get C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, whoever. There's different opinions. Everybody got different opinions on the situation. And I know everybody is saying take all the draft picks and get defensive guys. And I know I want to say that, but I don't know if it's going to happen that way. So if you want to blame somebody, you have to look at the root of the problem. Detroit Lions have been historically bad when it comes to the draft. The Detroit Lions, and I'm talking about as a whole, guys. I'm not talking about this season. As a whole, we have been historically horrible, that our guys don't stay on the team no more than, 2 or 3 years, and then they're gone. We don't have guys that stay on the team for 4 or 5 years. Guys that used to stay on the team like Dominic Raiola when he was on the team. Guys that stand on the team have been on the team for 10 years or something like that. We don't really have that. And not that I'm saying that guys have to be on the team for 10 years or anything like that, but I'm just trying to give you an example. So if you want to blame anybody, I think that Brad Holmes has a part in it. I think that the Fords have a part in it. I think that Dan Campbell has a part in it. Aaron Glenn has a part in it. And currently now, Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson has pretty much been on point. So I really don't want to put him in it because he's only had 1 bad game with his offense. But pretty much, if you want to play the blame game in Detroit, you got to look at the owner. You as good as your leader. So you got to look at the ownership. I think that the Fords should sell the team. Will they sell the team? No, they would probably not. It'll probably go to another family member. Does Brad Holmes take a part in this? Yes. Did Brad Holmes miss on some players? Yes. In free agency, yes. You could have picked up a Kazir White at linebacker, one of the solid linebackers in the NFL that can cover. He went to the Eagles. You had a chance to pick up Joe Sherbert to help out this defense a little bit. He was an all-pro caliber linebacker with the Cleveland Browns. Didn't do it. You cut linebackers and you never went out there and researched and looked for another one. I know, guys, you build through the draft. You can't depend on everything in free agency. Free agency is only for you to kind of tweak your lineup a little bit. You don't have to go out there and spend big money unless you know that somebody that you're spending big money on is going to come and help the franchise. But other than that, you try to get the best possible free agents that you can get. You don't bring back Alex Anzalone. You let him walk, and you find you another linebacker that can play. I know that Brad Holmes said that the grass is not green on the other side, but I think Brad Holmes might want to wake up, because we have to hold him accountable for the personnel that's out on the football field. We don't have Levi out there. We don't have Josh yet. We know that Josh is on his way, but we don't have him yet. We still don't have J-Mo yet. We're waiting on J-Mo. So some of the decision making has not been the greatest for Brad Holmes. Whether it been bringing back Tim Boyle, David Blah, Jarrett Davis, or whoever, some of these players that he brought back in here, that we could have probably just found other guys out there. But we decided to bring everybody back because we felt like everybody played well last season and we wanted to give them an opportunity. No, you kind of tweak it a little bit. You don't have to, you can bring a couple guys back, but you don't have to bring everybody back. And I think that that's what the Lions kind of messed up in. They brought everybody back and they should have kind of tweaked it a little bit. Not saying that you got to go out there and spend all of this buku boat of money. I'm not saying that. So I don't want you guys to get me misconstrued on that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that they could have brought some different type of players in here to help this team out and help this team get better. So I know personally that all GMs do not hit on their draft picks, and I understand that. We are the Detroit Lions. We need to get impactful players. Plain and simple. You only draft dogs. Guys that's going to give you 110. Guys that keep their nutrition right. Guys that are, you know what I'm saying, they love football. They love it. You want those type of guys to be in the locker room. We need those type of guys. We don't got Julian Okwara out there balling. He been on the team forever. Still, we don't have Romeo Okwara. There's a lot of things that we don't have why this team is not at full strength. And by this team not being at full strength, they can't give you everything. So injuries have hurt this team this season. But at the same time, you want to see these guys compete and you want to see them ultimately win some football games. You can't just go out there and lay a goose egg every week. So if you want to blame anybody for the debacle and for what's going on in Detroit and why Detroit Lions are currently 1-4, you might want to look at the whole thing, the whole picture. Don't look at just one individual because they all have a part in it. Whether it be Aaron Glenn preparing his defense on Sundays with his schemes and how he's going to use players, to Dan Campbell and his coaching abilities, to Brad Holmes and his personnel and decision-making on getting the right players in Detroit. We can't afford for Brad Holmes to go back in 2023 and draft any more injury-prone players. We need impactful players, dogs only. Go get the dogs, Brad Holmes, because that's what the team needs. I would never tell my franchise that I find no value in linebackers early. No. If there's a guy at linebacker that I feel that is a game changer, I'm going to get him. We had our opportunity. It was a lot of linebackers that came in this year's draft. We passed on a lot of these guys. We coached a lot of these guys at the Senior Bowl. We took none of these guys. So look at the product that you gave to Aaron Glenn to work with. He has nothing but a bunch of guys. He has nothing but a bunch of guys on this team. So we got to get it together, man, as the Detroit Lions, man. We got to get it together. So when I look at the whole picture, guys, I don't just look at it from the perspective of I want to point fingers at Brad Holmes. I want to say it's all his fault. No, because it's not all his fault. I don't want to say that it's all Dan Campbell's fault. I don't want to say that it's all Aaron Glenn's fault or Ben Johnson's fault. I want to look at them as a whole because they are the Detroit Lions all together. I do want to say that the injuries are playing a key role, and it's vital for us that we don't have none of our key players out there on the field. We know that we need a push from the inside. We need Big Levi, and we need Josh Pascal to be out there. And whenever J-Mo is ready, hey, we'll be ready for him to get out there and do his thing. If you were J-Mo, if I was him, I would kind of take this season off. But because I know he loves football, he's going to get out there and play. So it looks like he's slated to be back around the Buffalo game. So that's pretty much going to be a tough game, man, going against the Buffalo Bills. But definitely, man, the talent is there with J-Mo. No knock on him, no gripe against him for being picked at 12. Did I want a linebacker? Of course I did. You know it, guys. I wanted a linebacker. I didn't want Josh Pascal, and I can't lie to you. I thought that the Lions were going to take a linebacker, and they did not. They decided to go inside. So now in 2023, you're going to have to double back and go get another defensive tackle, another defensive end, maybe a corner, safety. I don't know if they'll get somebody offensively. I don't know if they're going to get the quarterback or the running back or anything like that, because pretty much everybody said we don't need those positions. But they got to make some hard choices. Who are they going to bring back? Are we going to bring back Swift? Are we going to pay Swift? You know, what guys are we going to let go? There's some guys that's going to get their walking papers, because we need to get better as a football team. So when you're looking at a problem, guys, always look at the root of the issue. Never look at the surface level stuff. Look at the root of the issue, because there underlines what's really going on with this football team. Historically, we have been bad with drafting. Our guys do not pan out. If you don't believe me, go through all the drafts and look at how all these players that's not on our team anymore. And I'm not saying that we're going to keep guys from 1989. Don't be foolish, guys. But I'm just saying, you know, just look at the current stuff. A lot of the guys that we drafted at linebacker, they're not here. We picked up James Houston. He's not out there on the field. He's a linebacker. So, you know, a lot of these players that we pick, man, they just don't pan out. And it's like a high turnover in Detroit with players. They stay here for 2 or 3 years. They don't become anything. They don't become solid football players, and then they go somewhere else and they start balling out. Some of them become all-pro or maybe Pro Bowl caliber players, or just maybe solid players on another team, and end up ultimately winning a Super Bowl. You know, guys like Ashawn Robinson, you know, shout out to Ashawn, you know, was on the Lions. I think that the Lions should have never got rid of Ashawn. That's just me personally. Shouldn't have never got rid of Aquandre Diggs. Shouldn't have never got rid of Slay. Should have paid Slay. We could have had Slay on this team still. Slay is over there balling with the Eagles. We only needed pieces. Now because this thing was tore down by Matt Patricia, Brad Holmes has the task of trying to put this thing together. And it's not easy. And I think Brad Holmes is learning that this season, that he made a valuable mistake by drafting some injury-prone players. You don't do that. That's a no-no, Brad Holmes. That's a no-no. Don't do that. So I think that Brad Holmes will probably learn from this, that you can't go back into the draft and get all these guys that's injured. You got to go out there and get some guys that's going to help us win football games. At the end of the day, how Brad Holmes will be judged is can he win in Detroit, and can he win football games? Can Dan Campbell win football games? Can Aaron Glenn get this defense prepared on Sundays? All right, you guys, I'm out of here. Until next time. Peace.
Ryan Little.